Feeling hungry? But if the steak is grown in a laboratory, would you also want to try it?
Currently, in the UK, 86% of the population eats meat in their diets. They consume 3.5 billion beef burgers a year. According to the World Counts, by 2025, the world population is expected to be close to 10 billion. That is a lot of mouths to feed. So global meat consumption is projected to reach a staggering 570 million tons. To meet the growing meat demand, we already use around 27% of the world's arable land to raise livestock. The UK has more than 1,000 livestock mega farms now, but this solution increases more environmental crises, like green gas emissions. Now scientists are placing big bets on cultured meat, also called lab-grown meat. First question, what is cultured meat?
We come to 3D Biotissue, the limited company, who has produced the UK's first cultivated meat within 12 months. And Professor Ceccano is here to unravel the mystery of cultured meat.
Cultured meat is a new way of producing food. And instead of slaughtering animals, you grow the meat in a laboratory. That means you start with the cells and you expand the cells up, then you create a steak or a sausage or a burger at the end of it.
In fact, today's cultured meat process is basically a three-step process. Firstly, take issue from live animals to extract stem cells and create cell lines. Then, cultivate the extracted stem cell lines in a nutrient-rich environment, mimicking in-animal tissue growth and producing muscle fibers inside a bioreactor. Finally, process the muscle fibers and mix them with additional fats and ingredients to assemble the finished meat product. In theory, cultured meat is more efficient based on the number of cells and their renewability.
But there are limitations both in the cell biology and the processes. I mean, it's not unlimited, but it's many times more than the amount of meat from an individual cow, yes.
The important question is, how could cultured meat benefit us? It is now widely publicized by the media and scientists that cultured meat has two major advantages. The first is to protect the environment.
The big one is greenhouse gas emission. So up to 25% of greenhouse gas emissions are due to farmed animals. Well, we can replace them with lab-grown or cultured meat. There are other pressures on traditional farming, especially in other parts of the world, which are amounts of water, and the availability of land. So if you can create the meat in a laboratory, then you can control that more, and the process will become more efficient and maybe make more land available for other purposes.
Secondly, traditional agriculture has long been criticized for causing pain to animals, for example, dirty and small transportation environment. So scientists are proud of not harming animals to produce cultured meat. However, is it really that good? Some reports expose that FBS, which is always used to grow cells, is extracted from the dying fetuses of slaughtered cows. Many people think it's inhuman. Professor Che claims that his team has made technical innovations.
CityMix is a direct replacement to FBS, and it allows us to grow cells and create tissues without relying on blood products from animals such as FBS. So we no longer be involved with any harm of animals in the processing and the manufacturing of our cultured meat at 3D Biotissues.
Although the technology sounds exciting, the market is strictly limited by regulation. Until now, only Singapore has allowed only one company called Good Meat to sell cultured meat. After Brexit, compared with the 3-year EU product approval time, the UK may shorten the assessment period to 6 to 9 months. And the 3D Biotissue Lab plans to present cultured meat products to the public at the beginning of next year. But we have to think about its impact on British agriculture. Professor Tom Macmillan from Royal Agricultural University plans to start a project to explore whether this is a threat or an opportunity for farmers.
Actually, that complements your business model rather than competing with it. So you could have fewer animals being farmed, but the value to the farmers not being reduced so much, and maybe additional sources of value, like I mentioned, the cell lines.
Researchers say they look forward to working with farmers, and they think it's a different way of working, not a direct threat.
We were looking to work with farmers where we can. We're looking to license the technology with distributors and farmers. You know, it's conceivable that farmers will change their methods, and there's no reason why farmers couldn't start to become producers of cultured meat.
Although scientists have a lot of faith in cultured meat and believe it will replace traditional meat in the long term, for many meat sellers, they prefer to see cultured meat as a new way of doing business.
I think it is the way forward. It is one of them where the impact of meat and the amount of people that are eating meat, especially, and the price of the products going up, is negatively affecting not only the wildlife but also people's pockets. It's something which has been around for hundreds of years, longer. I don't think anything can fully replace it.
The biggest concern is the price of cultured meat, but this may not be as readily accepted as the benefits. According to Future Meat Company, the cheapest cultured chicken costs $17 per kilogram, about 3 times more than traditional meat.
So at the moment, yes, it is higher, but there's a huge amount of potential savings in scaling up production, etc. So the plan is to meet the price of traditional meat at some time in the future, but that could be 5-10 years away.
If cultured meat is going to be higher than traditional, it won't work at all. For anything like that to come into effect and have a big effect on the population, it needs to be cheaper than traditional meat.
But as for its high price, researchers gave a reason to still choose cultured meat. Firstly, it may be healthier than traditional meat.
Because cultured meat is created in a sterile, contaminant-free environment, the final product, will also have a highly strict hygiene levels.
Then Professor Che claims that cultured meat not only tastes like traditional meat, but also has more freedom of customization.
If you could rationally design it, you could get it to taste how you might like meat to taste a bit more. So maybe you prefer meat a bit fattier, or you prefer meat a bit leaner, or you prefer meat which is quite soft or hard.
So now, what's your opinion about cultured meat? Although Food Standards Agency research shows that a third of UK customers are willing to try cultured meat, dissenting voices cannot be ignored.
If it's not harming the animal, then obviously I think that's positive.
I don't want to try the cultured meat because it's not natural.
I think it's the best innovation for vegans and vegetarians.
Given the appeal of protecting the environment, vegetarianism always takes a positive attitude towards cultured meat. Richard McWin, chief executive at the Vegetarian Society, shows interest in this new technology.
It's really interesting. If you can create meat industrially using animal cells, but without having to farm animals, then you could sort of have your meat, but with fewer carbon emissions and without the amount of land.
Vegetarians account for 10% of the UK's population, and the number is increasing. So there is a potential market, but it will take work to turn them into customers.
The cells that you gather to create the meat are actually come from a live biopsy of an animal at the moment. So you still need to use animals in some way. And so clearly for most vegetarians and vegans, that's going to be a no-no. Anything that comes from slaughter is not really vegetarian or vegan at all.
Although customer attitudes are mostly positive, business awareness has not caught up. Most of the restaurants I've spoken to on Sheffield West Street were unaware of the concept of cultured meat, let alone have ideas for the future. So whether cultured meat can save pressure on food agriculture, relieve environment pressure, and achieve good results in the market, we have to wait and see.